Bear Grylls is a real-life hero who we all have seen in childhood, doing things that give us goosebumps, things we couldn't even imagine in our dreams. He's the one who sets our hearts racing. He's the one who shows us what it really means to do something. But do you know, Bear Grylls wasn't always like this. This person, who appears like a fearless and strong man, has also experienced weakness, vulnerability, fear, anxiety, and depression from within. In his autobiography, Mud, Sweat, and Tears, he writes about this. He compels you to be amazed from the outside, but leaves you feeling weak and vulnerable from the inside. Bear Grylls' biggest fear was heights, known as acrophobia. But look, it's a miracle that a few years later, in the start of each episode of his show, he would descend from a helicopter at great heights. He was even part of the UK's Special Forces, the SAS, where he gained a lot of experience in parachuting. He has jumped out of planes many times. At the age of 21, Bear Grylls, during a mission in Zambia in 1996, jumped from a height of 16,000 feet. But this time, his parachute didn't open. As soon as he jumped into the sky, he realized the right time and opened his parachute. But still, he was descending rapidly. When he looked up, he realized that the parachute hadn't fully opened. In panic, he started pulling the cords of the parachute to somehow get it to open completely. While doing all this, he collided with trees and fell to the ground. Darkness engulfed him in an instant. He fell to the ground on his back and felt excruciating pain. And what's worse is that even after falling from such a height, he was still conscious. He couldn't even breathe properly, just lying there, crying out loud. He hoped that his comrades would come to rescue him. The pain was so unbearable that he couldn't bear it. He says that death would have been better than enduring this pain. But even death wasn't coming to him. He lay there writhing in pain for many hours until his comrades took him to a hospital in remote Africa. He remembers the doctor injecting his back, and gradually the pain started to subside. He started to think that he was getting better. He tried to get up. Then the doctor came and said to him that he couldn't walk anymore. Upon hearing this, the world of the young 21-year-old Bear Grylls came crashing down. When he looked at the X-ray, he could clearly see that 3 bones of his spine, T8, T10, and T12 were broken. These are the strongest bones in the human body, and they were completely shattered. The young man, who was once ready to climb mountains, couldn't even move to the bathroom. He says that the pain of breaking bones from a parachute fall wasn't as painful as enduring it for a year in the hospital to repair those bones. Lying on a hospital bed, he thought that maybe he would never be able to walk again. His reason for living, his adventure, meaning, and identity seemed to have disappeared. These are the strongest bones in a human's abdomen, which were completely shattered. The young man who used to climb up the hill could no longer walk to the bathroom. They say that the pain of breaking these bones from falling off a parachute wasn't as painful as enduring a year in the hospital to mend them. Lying in the hospital bed, they thought maybe they would never walk again. Their reason for living, meaning, and adventurous spirit was lost. They would lie awake at night, soaked in sweat from anxiety. Their breath would become heavy. They would feel suffocated. Every night they would be filled with regret, self-blame, and self-loathing. 2 months had passed, but instead of improvement in their health, their condition was worsening. The pain was increasing, and their body was stiffening. As they looked at their condition, they became more negative. Nothing seemed good. They would get angry and cry often, slowly slipping into depression and deeper despair. Those who knew them thought Bear Grylls was a very positive person, mentally tough, and could face this difficulty with a lot of courage and positivity. But that wasn't the case. They were 21 years old and very afraid that they wouldn't be able to climb Mount Everest one day. Looking at the dusty photo frame, they felt as if dust had settled on their dreams too, which they couldn't bear. That night, there was no one with them. They were alone. Standing up with effort, they reached the photo frame with the help of crutches and wiped off the dust. And while doing this, they kept thinking, how can they find the courage to live again? This thought, deeply ingrained in their subconscious, gave them courage and gave them hope to live. The next day, when they woke up, they remembered something their grandmother always used to say: whatever happens in life, happens for the best. They felt like they were inhuman, constantly finding excuses to make themselves miserable and troubled. Whenever they faced any difficulty, they always reminded themselves that whatever is happening is ultimately for the best, and nothing wrong will ever happen. At that time, they understood the depth of this statement and accepted the truth that if they wanted, they could have died from this accident and injury, but because they were alive, it meant God had something better in store for them. After that, they stopped worrying about all these things, and when their overthinking decreased, their mind found peace. Then their stress and negativity also started to decrease. Before taking care of their body, they started to repair their mind. If the mind is strong, the body also starts to heal itself. Their wounds started to heal, and the speed of bone fusion increased. They remembered a saying of their closest friend Ed Ames, who had once told Bear Grylls, "Life is born in the call of God, dies, and then reborn. And with this injury, you've been reborn. Now I am just like a newborn baby, without any worry of anything, neither of my past nor of the future. I am just grateful for my present." Bear Grylls says, "Life doesn't give us a second chance, but if it does, be very grateful." They were grateful for their life, for their broken spine, for their dreams. They went to pick up the picture of Mount Everest and said loudly, "As soon as I get better, I will come to the summit of Mount Everest." If one thing helped them the most in overcoming this depression, it was their goal, their aim, and their purpose. They still didn't have a reason to live. But in that state, when they couldn't walk, they promised themselves that they would climb Mount Everest. When they told the people around them that they wanted to climb Mount Everest once they recovered, people ignored their words, but their goal was crystal clear. Now they had to get better as soon as possible. Their body and mind both had become one goal, which they could work on together. After 3 months of the accident, the pain started to decrease. 8 months later, they were discharged from the hospital, and within a year, they were completely fine. But doctors had advised them not to train again in the special forces. There was no job, so there was no money either. But they needed $25,000 to fulfill their dreams, where they had trained to climb Mount Everest, which they had bought for the equipment. They had written proposals to nearly 250 companies, and all the companies rejected them. Even after reacting 250 times, they didn't stop. Many doors were knocked, but disappointment was encountered every time. Then SAFA, the Forces Help Organization, helped them fulfill this dream. 4 people lost their lives, and they held 2 disappointment fests, where they barely survived, as if they were going to reach the summit of Mount Everest at the age of 23 and the British youngest person. After this, their story started becoming very famous. People started inviting them as aide and speaker in seminars. Many documentaries were made on them, and finally, they got that opportunity from Discovery, which gave them worldwide fame. After that, everyone started wanting to know them from Man vs. Wild, and maybe you're one of them too. So if you liked this video, click to like and subscribe to increase the support for this channel, and turn on the bell notifications so that you don't miss upcoming videos. Thank you for watching.